The other thing we do, though, pretty religiously is in every town hall, we do voice of customer. That is a ritual where we bring recordings, usually, sometimes live customer conversations with Q&A. But the purpose of these is both good and bad. It is not just about a cheerleading session in our town halls of everything going great. It's also we did 2 months ago, we did four customers in town hall about why they didn't buy Guru. And like when I set it up, I was like, this is not going to, cheer everybody up. So like, let's just set the stage. But like, that is not why we do town halls. And we are not here to just be a bunch of cheerleaders. So we are going to share good and bad. Right. And so take the team through that. But when you just relentlessly hear in the words of the customer, the way they're thinking about the problem and articulating it and what they're valuing and why, it makes everybody better. And it is, I think, one of the most important ways to product and GTM to keep leveling up in a competitive space.
Welcome. This is Second Acts, a podcast where we document how SaaS leaders chart the challenging, chaotic, ultimately foundational second acts of scaling up organizations. And I'm your host, Krish Subramanian, co-founder and CEO at Chargebee. This episode's guest saw the cloud hype cycle up close in the early 2000s and pivoted to bet big on it with an iPaaS integration platform as a service called Boomi, which took on incumbents such as Microsoft and eventually exited to Dell in 2010. In 2021, Dell sold it further in a cash transaction valued at $4 billion. With his current decade-in-the-making venture, a single source of truth for organizational knowledge, he has again been an early mover in making sense of yet another hype cycle, AI. To me, his understanding of what truly matters as one builds and scales with these technological shifts is phenomenal. He had once said, and I quote, "New technologies are only as good as their ability to solve problems. All hype cycles end. What lasts are the use cases that address real customer needs. They turn the hype into reality." Embrace new technologies, but always through the lens of adding customer value. And I'm, of course, referring to Guru's co-founder and CEO, Rick. During our conversation, Rick talks about why Boomi 1.0 failed, why they invite lost customer accounts during internal town halls, the mechanics of serving buyers across different segments with a primarily PLG motion, how they have evolved to solve org-wide problems while starting with functional ones, why they once tested a $7,000 per month price point and have now landed at a dead simple $15 per user per month as the best pricing they've ever had, the risks of building jack-of-all-trades products in an AI-first enterprise world, and a whole lot more. Dive right in. And if you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And if you really like the conversation, drop us a review. I would really appreciate it. This is the final episode for the first season, and we'll be back with more instructive and exciting second acts conversations early next year. Thank you so much for tuning in. Rick, welcome to Second Acts.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Great to meet you.
Great to meet you too. Let's get started. So to begin with, tell us about your vision for Guru and how it has evolved over the past decade and more.
Yeah, absolutely. Guru's been around for 10 years, certainly evolved a lot. What we do, the problem we solve is primarily centered around bringing AI search into companies, into organizations and teams. And to give that a bit more context, that can mean different things to different people. So if you are a CEO of a company, search for you might mean wanting to find out what's going on with a particular customer, let's say. So you would use Guru to ask about a deal or the health of a customer. And Guru can connect across your CRM, your meeting recordings, your Slack conversations about that customer, your documented knowledge, et cetera, and kind of give you one comprehensive view instead of you having to jump around to all those different places. Maybe if you're in the support side of the world, you're thinking about fast, rapid response times for your frontline support organization. And so Guru is, kind of built into the workflows of customer agents and helps them quickly find the knowledge they need to answer customer questions. Or, maybe you're in HR and there's benefits enrollment season happening, which is, I think, a very timely thing right now. And in that case, your team is about to get inundated with questions around insurance policies and which ones to pick and what's the difference between this policy and that policy. All of these things are what I mean by AI search, and how do you create a knowledge management foundation for teams to be able to find the information they need, easily document what other people need, and be able to share out information that teams need to be able to see to do their job. So that's what we do today. I would say the evolution, definitely, it's been a journey for sure. The biggest evolution that Guru's made over the last several years, when we started, we really focused on building a best-in-class knowledge base that has knowledge management workflows, wiki-type collaborative authoring and editing capabilities. And that was really where we started, and that still remains and always will be, I think, a very core part of the system. I think the interesting shift is, documentation used to be written for humans to read. Now documentation is written for humans and AI to also be able to read. And as a result, we have evolved our thinking a lot. The other thing we've noticed is the idea of a single source of truth is a really core need. That's sort of the umbrella term for everything I was just describing. A single source of truth, I think, used to mean that we have one place where we're going to store all our company knowledge. And I think that chapter's over. I think there is way too many silos of knowledge. There are way too many places where meetings took place or conversations are happening in messaging tools or knowledge bases are built into other SaaS apps. And as a result, that's Guru's other big evolution, is we now will search across any structured and unstructured data source inside a company. We provide sources that are built into Guru that let you reach into these other systems for the purpose of securely indexing, understand permissions of who has access to this stuff. And so, for us, there's this new source of truth emerging, which is, this should be one place I can go to find everything I need, regardless of where that information might be stored. And so I'd say that's probably been our biggest evolution.
Fantastic. Love it. I can relate to the problem where we have been putting a lot of emphasis right now in how to treat, how to ensure that the documentation everywhere, whether it's even a tutorial or an answer that is written by a customer, stays relevant, right? Because it has a huge influence in how you surface the right information through AI. Wonderful.
Yes.
Right. And who are one of your customers? Sorry, go ahead.
We work with customers ranging from small business to enterprises. Generac is a customer, DHL is a customer, Pinterest is a customer, Travel Perk, Sonos, Spotify. So the problem that I'm describing is a problem that spans businesses of a lot of different sizes and a lot of different industries, which is both great, but also has its need to think about focus from a go-to-market perspective. But yeah, as a result, we do tend to work with a lot of companies that are, I would say, what they all have in common is that, they sort of view this need for a single source of truth as a critical ability for them to scale efficiently. And of course, Gen AI is putting that on overdrive because it is opening up new ways of operational efficiency that weren't possible before, which has been good for Guru, a good accelerant for Guru. But nonetheless, I think remains the core problem that all of these customers are trying to solve, is that need, that desire for that single source of truth.
Brilliant. Love it. Then there are systems of action which are decentralized today, and then there are systems of insight that we try to create. But I think there is something more to what you are saying. This is also centralizing the type of knowledge that is captured through the systems of actions, contributed through the community or through like employees. It could be any number of those policy documents, all of that coming together and making it available. Beautiful.
Yes. I think that's really well said. And I think that there's you can tell when customers come and talk to us, they feel that missing, they feel the chaos because they don't have that one place, and they sort of feel how their teams are kind of feeling disconnected as a result. So yeah, I think that was I liked how you laid out that framework.
Wonderful. So I want to go back to your first company, Boomi, that eventually believe was acquired by Dell. So you've noted that how Boomi itself had a profound second act of the business, that Boomi 1.0 failed and Boomi 2.0 worked, because with the latter you had figured out what you could solve uniquely and obviously well. Why do you think that first version failed despite a clear first mover's advantage? What are some lessons?
Yes, it's a great point. Well, what I would actually say is there was not a first mover advantage in Boomi 1.0. There definitely was with Boomi 2.0. The big learning with Boomi 1.0 was that we saw there was no doubt that application integration was and remains an enormous pain point that exists in every company. The thing we stumbled into when we started the company, and Boomi was started in 2000, was that there were many well-funded, established enterprise software companies that already existed, that were well ahead of us trying to solve this problem. And we saw a lot of them taking very technical approaches. And so we said, okay, well, let's provide something that is more focused around ease of use, more configuration based, more productized. And right around that time, Microsoft launched a product called BizTalk, which had really the exact same promise. And it just became obvious that it's an enormous market. It's a must-solve problem. So that's not the question around product market fit. It was much more, how are we making our place amongst all of these alternatives? And the shift to 2.0 and what became the first mover advantage was a bet to say, and this started in 2007. So I think it was a bet at the time that the world was going to move to cloud. That enterprises would digitally transform from on-prem to cloud, not completely, and it's still not completely, but that there would be this mix of on-prem, hosted, SaaS, and that in that world, integration would have to be done in a very different way. And so let's build the product for that world. And that was the bet that we made and the product that we launched. And we were the first ones doing that. We were the first kind of iPaaS integration platform as a service providers. And that became the product that people know of today, that is Boomi, and the one that actually took off and grew. So I think it was this searing into our brain of like, we must not go into a market that is massively crowded without a very clear plan of differentiation and focus. And I think radically shifted as a result in a way that ended up being very, very healthy for Boomi.
Brilliant. And this was in the middle of that hype cycle, right?
Yeah.
And and there were incumbents like Microsoft that you were taking on. Were there any particular conversations that stands out that helped you in reframing, that helped with coming up with this winning theme?
Well, it's this really great origin story where so my partner Bob Mao, who was Boomi's CEO, and at the time I was the CTO and responsible for product and technology. And we were both very fascinated with cloud and SaaS, and we were early adopters of NetSuite and Salesforce. And I was thinking on the technology side, like, man, this integration would be totally different if you were going to try to connect all these things together because you've got to move data between firewalls, and this is really sensitive data, and how would that work? And at the same time, in this just weird, fortuitous kind of moment, my partner Bob was like, doesn't it seem like SaaS application integration is going to be this enormously important thing? And I was like, well, it's funny that you said that because we just came up with this architecture that I think would be an extremely elegant way of solving that. And we kind of got in the room, but I think you had someone, Bob, with the market lens thinking about like also thinking about this need to differentiate, coming at it from that angle. And myself and Mitch, who's my co-founder now at Guru, but ran engineering at the time at Boomi, he and I are over there going like, what would this architecture look like? And what would be this unlock? And kind of came up with this like runtime engine that's called the Boomi Atom. And it was this like very serendipitous kind of coming together of like, we've just connected a huge problem with a technology and a clear need and a first mover advantage. And it was like an inception and let's go kind of situation. And we really did. And it was really like a burn the ships kind of strategy. And that we didn't sort of hedge. We sort of said like, this is the thing we're going to do. And we put all of our energy and all of our resources towards it. But yeah, that was that moment, really that you're speaking to.
Got it. Got it. And especially with large competitors on all sides, right? The dynamics are would have been very interesting. So, what framework do you use to channel those lessons today as an at-scale business that has competition on all sides?
I think today, we put an enormous amount of effort into listening to the market. And I would say 80% of listening to the market for us means listening to real active customer conversations. We certainly look at it and understand what competitors are doing. I think that's very important. I think it's especially important these days where in AI, there is constant new entrants. And so you really do need to spend time and be aware of them. That pendulum can overswing though. And I think where it can become unhealthy is if you sort of lose your North Star of what you're doing and what your purpose in the world is. So we do try to balance that carefully. So when I say listening to the market, we have put a ton of energy into how we assimilate feedback across our GTM team and how we enable ourselves and how I enable myself to speak directly to customers all the time. And so some example rituals towards this. Number one, we record every customer conversation, as I think everyone does, but we have a specific slice we do in those conversations where we try to pull out and isolate product feedback, things the customer was excited about, things the customer's concerned about, and be able to capture that nugget with clip and quotes. And not so we can act on one-off feedback, but so we can distill patterns thematically out of the feedback. And because we have something like 2,700 customers, the volume is enough that it requires this kind of pattern thinking. It's interesting because we're building a lot of new products using Gen AI, doing real kind of like first principle thinking on a lot of product investments. And so some of the stuff we're building feels like we're a seed stage, not quite Series A startup in terms of that product's maturity with its customers. Yet we have this customer base that already exists. So that's kind of the balance I think we do. So distill those themes in, that's one. The other thing we do though, pretty religiously is, in every town hall, we do voice of customer. That is a ritual where we bring recordings usually, sometimes live customer conversations with Q&A. But the purpose of these is both good and bad. It is not just about a cheerleading session in our town halls of everything going great. It's also we did 2 months ago we did four customers in town hall about why they didn't buy Guru. And like when I set it up, I was like, this is not going to, cheer everybody up. So like, let's just set the stage. But like, that is not why we do town halls. And we are not here to just be a bunch of cheerleaders. So we are going to share good and bad. Right. And so take the team through that. But when you just relentlessly hear in the words of the customer, the way they're thinking about the problem and articulating it and what they're valuing and why, it makes everybody better. And it is, I think, one of the most important ways to product and GTM to keep leveling up in a competitive space.
Love that. One of the rituals I'm trying to bring back is invite customers into the senior leadership meetings, because earlier we used to do fireside chat with customers in the all hands. So I can relate to it. It's very valuable. One of the internal rituals we have is we have a Slack channel called All Customer Meeting Notes, where we encourage anybody who's speaking with the customer to publish those notes directly into that channel, and anybody inside the organization should be able to read the notes from any of our customers. Anytime we talk to customers, we want that to be published as a public knowledge, and good, bad, ugly, it's okay, right? And then tag the people and then take action on it immediately. And it's a fantastic opportunity. Right?
One of the best channels, I bet, for you to read, right? Totally agree.
Right. Yeah. The support tickets are actually very valuable, but transactional in nature, looking at things in isolation as well. Right. So apart that helps in sampling and understanding. But this type of summary conversations are also very helpful. Awesome. So at Boomi, you sold primarily to large enterprises, but Guru seems to sell across the spectrum, starting from SMBs. You have a free trial and a $15 per month plan, right? And then enterprises. How does that impact the question of differentiation?
Yeah. So in this case, a good way to think of it is more the persona. And I was saying a little bit earlier, like the common ingredient with the customer is they are thinking about the single source of truth problem. I would elaborate on that and say that they tend to be operationally minded. And what I mean by that specifically is they are coming in with a more clear business problem. And that is not always the case. There are plenty of people that are doing what I would call experimental Gen AI investments, which is a click removed from the business problem. It's, hey, there's this technology. Let's go and see where we might be able to apply it. That's trickier, but also often comes with a desire to want to build, tooling to build. Whereas what Guru is doing and has always done, and I think is something that I think we're pretty good at as a team, and so we're really leaning into, is we're building the solution. We're giving you a product that is very flexible and extensible, but is built for you. So you don't, words like RAG, if you're asking us about that, it probably means that you want to be building and architecting something yourself. Whereas Guru has built a very sophisticated RAG system that chunks your content for you and understands your permissions for you and has the search index already built for you. And so you turn on Guru and start using it, right? And so that's more the lens we look at it as. And so we will see companies as a result of that across many different sizes. But that's more of the common ingredient, is like, hey, if you are of the mindset of like, I have a problem to solve and I need to quickly solve it, and I need a product that I think is going to grow with me and continue to be innovative, but like take care of building that hard stuff for me. That's more the lens that we look at it under, versus segmentation. To be fair though, I mean, we also do not do the what I would call traditional enterprise go-to-market type motions either. We are, as you rightfully called out, customers become Guru customers one of two ways. They self-serve sign up, they do a trial, they convert after they try it on their own. We do many sort of workshop and product centric type calls with people through their trials, but in a very kind of scalable way. The other motion is a sales, a sales assisted kind of sales led motion. But again, that is predominantly inbound, the way that works today.
Wonderful. Got it. Fantastic. So switching topics, I'm going to paraphrase one of your quotes before I ask the next question. And it's one of my favorite quotes that I read of yours. This is about product market fit. And the reason it resonated very much with me was also that every time we move across segments, the segment could be geographies, segment could be size of customers, whichever way you define it, a combination of these attributes, you are basically trying to establish product market fit all over again. That beginner's mindset becomes very important. And I found that the framework that you suggested to say the very deceptive version of product market fit, where your revenue is growing, but your use cases are not yet consistent, was fascinating. Right, where if you take what you recommended was to say, take a small cohort of customers, write those 5 case studies, and see how similar, right, would each case study be from the next. The more similar they are, there is repeatability to invest in growth. The more dissimilar they are, the customers are happy to spend money with you, but they are using different parts of the product in different ways. And that's a flaw, right? And that's a fantastic way to look at it. And so it'll be very helpful to know what challenge the forms the challenge has surfaced again during the latest phase of Guru. And when every new product line, every new segment or vertical can seem like there's a lot of great possibilities, how do you as a team decide on potential adjacent growth bets?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just, my motion sensor light turned off. Sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'm glad that really resonated with you because, yeah, I think that as Guru was going through the journey I was describing before, our product market fit changed just like the way you said, and we had to sort of relearn who our buyers are and what they care about. Not that it was drastically different in that we were sort of still in this kind of world of knowledge management, but the stakeholders that would buy Guru certainly does evolve. When we started the company as a knowledge base, what we really saw happen was Guru would be deeply deployed within a functional area in a business, like let's say a sales team or a customer support team. And as we have evolved the product to where it is today, and particularly around our ability to now connect and search across so many different CRM and project management systems, we often are now bought and deployed as a company-wide product that is leveraged by those same teams, but now also by HR and product and IT and many different functions. And so, if I go back to your case study point, it's a really great example of that, where the learning for us is what is not going to work is to try to be good at both of those things. And what I mean by both of those things is if we are existing to capture a functional budget like customer support, then that means we are a customer support product that is being paid for out of that budget, that has a value proposition that is very clearly aligned to what that budget owner, the VP of support, is going to care about and prioritize. And that needs to be our message and our focus and our value proposition, and our pricing needs to be thought about as being compatible with that lens. And we would see those situations happen where we would see Guru sitting in one function here, and then Guru sitting in sales, and sales having a different framing of value around the product. And so the evolution of the product market fit, therefore, to your question, for us was like, all right, we it really was sort of three chapters, I would say, over the last 10 years. Chapter one began with sales, and we said, okay, so we're clearly seeing Guru land and be used by this department in a kind of repeatable way. Then we started seeing those customers roll Guru out to their support teams, and we were surprised by that, because we're like, don't support tools have great knowledge bases? Why is this even a thing? What's going on? And then we started seeing Guru land in more sophisticated support organizations. Shopify was an early Guru customer back in 2016, and many more in that kind of similar persona or profile of Shopify. And we're like, all right, something's clearly happening here. And so chapter two of that became, all right, well, Guru is clearly mission critical for customer facing teams. And so that was sort of Guru's second, I would sort of say, second arc of product market fit. But then what we saw happen was people going, well, actually, this is a company problem, not a departmental problem. Right. And yes, sales has this problem and support does, but they're getting the knowledge. Guru's providing them the knowledge, but the people contributing the knowledge are sitting in these other teams. They're sitting in product and product marketing and eng and security. And we really need that too. And then HR sitting here going, well, I have the problem too, because if I can't get, my information out, if I can't solve the employee experience problem, right? Because they'd be surveying their employees, and their employees, without a product like Guru, are going like my experience at the company is negatively impacted because it takes me too long to find stuff. So help me, right? So we're like, okay, the common thread across all of this, and what we need to do, is we need to reframe Guru as being able to solve a company problem, not a departmental problem. And that's really the third arc of kind of our product market fit and how it's grown. And in order to do that, it does certainly invite some complexity, because what you can't do is give every department the same product and expect them to use it with success. There have been many legacy products that have tried to do that. You end up kind of just creating a very vanilla product that is kind of mediocre at a lot of things. And so instead, our approach is to say, okay, every workflow we see that sales has, that support has, that product has, that HR has, that needs to be a capability that can be built and configured in our product in a way that can be leveraged by other teams, by other functions. And that's where we now see to your point about the 5 case studies, the much more consistent viewpoint where, yes, they will still talk about Guru and its value in their language. If a customer is using Guru across their whole org, the support team will go, it helps me answer questions faster. But all the patterns are now the same, and they're consistent, and it's much easier to translate those patterns from team to team to team, because we have one extensible product enabling that, versus trying to build discrete go-to-markets to say, we're going to sell to sales and support and HR. And that's extremely, extremely hard to do.
Brilliant. We see that I'm able to see a lot of parallels to the problem that we are dealing with as well. Early stage company, a CTO actually thinks about launching pricing, and it's just the first iteration they want to launch, and eventually it becomes a CFO's problem. And then in between, a sales leader comes in, I want to expand country, I want to be able to do things. Right. So we see that in pockets, the up and the amount of pain they feel and the urgency is actually very different. Right. One, if you want to sell to the entire organization, can you actually raise that level of awareness and intentionality about adopting a product the same way, right? Or do you wait for the pain to come to that boiling point where it becomes a project inside the organization, where somebody comes to a conclusion to say, now I need this billing infrastructure, versus are there other ways in which you can actually like raise that awareness and get them to that common denominator? Fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
The next one topic I want to ask you, and I found it very fascinating, about the evolution of your pricing. Um, so this is the evolution of pricing strategy of a company, right? It is a clear reflection of the choices that we had to make over time, right? So we went into Guru's pricing pages over the years, and you're gone from per user, per month, and then good, better, best pricing model that began at the $5 price point, to fixed rate pricing that began at $380 per month, $380 per month, with a corporate plan that was listed at $7,250 per month, to now a single all-in-one plan, including an AA offering that's priced at $15 per user per month. I see a free trial on the left, and then enterprise plan on the right, to its right, which is interesting. So would love to understand some of the insights, especially on users, buyers, segments, that have informed the various phases of Guru's monetization choices.
Yeah, totally. The one you just mentioned, the 380 a month, 7250 a month. I mean, that pricing was very short-lived, but we learned something very important from it. And I was mentioning this earlier, but customers come into Guru one of two ways. They come in product led, or they come in sales led, and those are not mutually exclusive, by the way. Everyone comes in through one motion. There are a cohort of customers that start off and buy 5 seats because they want to start building with Guru, and they're not ready to roll it out more broadly, but they know they want to, right? That pricing, which was a test to see, could we increase our land sizes by showcasing more value to our customers in the sales cycle, worked fine for our sales-led motions, where they are typically buying more upfront anyway. It is more of a considered purchase. It completely shut off that product-led customer acquisition channel. No one came in and just dropped even 380 a month for this type of product. Yeah. And so I think learning one was, it sort of reinforced for us that we need a simple, transparent pricing that optimizes for someone to be able to get started with a small group, because there is, again, a cohort of customers where that is sort of very common what happens. I mean, you can look at many of Guru customers that signed up for 3 seats and now pay, many hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years. But that first group is, maybe a subject matter expert, or someone sitting in HR trying to refactor their employee handbook, or someone in support going, we're going to launch a new product. I'm going to test out Guru as the source of truth for the product knowledge. And there's just that kind of time where they want to set it up and try it with a small group and invite a few people. So I would say that was the biggest learning on that old pricing model. And the pricing today, and the way you see that one price and that all-in-one framing, is also rooted in the reality that Guru does tend to replace a lot of things. We will often replace intranets. We will often replace enterprise search products that are, kind of connected to a lot of things, but kind of giving back a lot of search results that are like, cool, I can see my files, but like, what's the one I need to actually get my job done? Kind of not really solving that problem. So we will replace a lot of things, and that's why you see the framing we have now, where we anchor on use cases around knowledge base, enterprise search, and intranet, because again, they are not mutually exclusive. They are all rooted in enabling that single source of truth. And so we are basically saying, thinking of those as three disparate categories, like that era, in our opinion, is over. There's a new era now where where we have kind of pulled the useful workflows out of those discrete products, brought them into one experience. And so let's make it dead simple to understand how the pricing works. One price, very easy to understand. And so that's where we've landed. One thing we have said as a group is like, we will empower ourselves to change pricing, because that, I think, is actually an important step, because you said it earlier, like it can be often unclear who's like the DRI on pricing. I think it's, ultimately like often the CEO is. And I think that if there's one thing I would try to do with our team, it's this feels hard, but it is not a one-way door decision. So if we want to try new pricing, let's try it. And there are some things that can be hard to unwind. And we've made those mistakes too. But most pricing changes actually are not really hard to change if you end up not liking them. And so try to free us up a little bit to not be constantly testing stuff, but like empower ourselves. If once or twice a year we want to try different pricing, we should do that. And that's really how I think we've gotten to what we believe is the best pricing we've had that matches to our value. Yeah.
Really? My view is very similar as well, right? Because your product continues to evolve. Your value proposition is something that is evolving through your customer's lens as well. So it is very important to make sure that you are doing some micro experiments with existing customers, new customers, to continuously seek that market feedback, because that healthy tension is needed to find the right customers continuously, right? Where it resonates.
Yes.
More than anything else, right? So this is not about capturing value. This is more about pointing that compass to the right customers and using the filter, right? Because you get so much inbound interest. Like we all get like sometimes even a few million visitors a year. How do you make it resonate? And this is the second most visited page in almost every website.
Almost every website.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for having that. So switching topics, I want to refer to your talk in the Business of Software conference way back in 2018, where you had concluded that with 3 directives for those integrating AI. This is in 2018. Beware of the jack of all trades, that is, focus on building specific business problems. Number 2, focus on outcomes, not algorithms. Number 3, overinvest in user experience, which is like brilliant. How would you revisit those with what you know today? And what advice would you provide scaling SaaS founders and executives who are facing competition from both new AI entrants and incumbents with amazing distribution levers? Like you also face Microsoft as a competition, right? So I would love to know how you actually revisit these.
Well, I still agree with all 3 of them. Although I guess I have to start by saying, like, let's not forget the product that kicked off this whole era of AI we're in now, ChatGPT, which maybe doesn't do any of this. So hey, what do I know, right? Because look, I think the beauty of ChatGPT is you open it up and it's a blinking cursor, right? And then you start talking to it, and then you're like, holy crap! Well, what else can it do? What else can it do, right?
It's a new Google search box.
Yes. But the reason why I said I still agree with all of them is primarily we are in a big hype cycle right now. And so there are constant, truly, literally constant new AI offerings emerging all the time. And so really it's the customer that I have empathy for, because the customer is like, how do I even like wrap my head around all these different things that I'm seeing and hearing about? And I do think there is maybe someone like an OpenAI has every right to go very, very wide with what they do. But I think generally speaking, where this will go, or my belief is where it will go, is that jack of all trade type approaches where you are building too wide you will start inviting competitors from many different directions. And by directions, what I mean is, let's say you're doing like 8 or 9 or 10 different workflows that used to be done in the SaaS world by 8 or 9 or 10 discrete SaaS applications. Okay, well, now all of a sudden you might have project management people building AI coming at you on this part. You might have people working on business intelligence type AI, and they're going to come at you on this vector of what you're doing. And you're going to have, CRM people building AI coming at you on this part, right? And so where do you protect what you're doing and defend your value? And so that's where I do think that the jack of all trade point, and the point I had made back in 2018 was the other big reason to do that is the value of data and the value of the data that you're building to train models. Now there's plenty of AI products being brought to market where they're using foundational models of others versus building their own. But I still think the data point stands because there still remains a optimization, refinement, and improvement set of data that comes from usage inside of every product. And that's so that's a jack of all trades point. On the algorithm part, focus on outcomes is what I was saying before. It's just our belief in, like, right now there is people buying Gen AI technology. So more, buying more on the algorithm side, right? And I think that there is very good, noble, and valid reasons to do that, which is to learn. I think one of the best ways businesses can understand how to start transforming their work into using AI type systems is actually by trying this stuff. And so I think that is really, really important and necessary. And I think coming out of that trial and experimentation, businesses will form point of views, and those point of views will be rooted in business problems. And then some of them will build, some of them will buy. And the ones that go and buy, they're going to go buy things that can solve their business problem, modern AI driven things that are connected to problems they have that they can solve. And so that's why I sort of do believe a lot in the outcome over algorithm, because at the end of the day, I do think that is a very sustainable way to be able to say, I know how to measure, like at Guru, we can measure the value of a source of truth because we can understand how long it takes you to find things when you don't have Guru and how long it takes you to find things with Guru. And that is a very, very objective way to measure. And then the third one, obsessive in UX, 100%. And I mean, I think there's been a big conversation for a while, which is everything going to look like a chat UX? I mean, I think that conversation's kind of already ending. I mean, even ChatGPT 2 weeks ago launched Canvas, where they're now putting this, more intentional document and code management experience natively inside the experience. Anthropic had done a similar thing a while ago. And so I would caution against sort of saying, hey, just because ChatGPT ignited the whole world, therefore everything's going to be chat. I think chat will serve its purpose, but I think there are many amazing workflows yet to be created. And the UX is going to be the whole thing here. It's going to be the whole, like, how do these systems really partner with humans in ways that are really positive from a productivity standpoint? And I think we need to just be careful in kind of assuming that, we'll just sort of attach to I get why, again, like there's a UX strategy that's very valid, which is the value of similarity, the value of something that feels familiar to me. And so I don't want to say that's not, I think that there's a huge validity in that, but there are these ways to kind of branch off that, these ways to go, yeah, but there are these other novel UXs that I think could be make or break for a product in a world where you have 5 things that might sound similar and solve similar problems. But that one unlocked that UX that users are just delighted by and want to use every day. Wow, that's a very huge opportunity in my opinion.
Love it. Love it. And I think the evolution, when we say UX, right, the user, one of the fascinating things that I find now is voice recognition, how far we have come, right? In a very short period of time, like this particular window, it is just amazing, right? You can tell, right? My accent has very influenced like with English as a second language is heavy, right? And I've always struggled with talking to a Siri, or like Google search never works for me with voice. You never,
Yeah.
even now. But I actually talk to ChatGPT, it actually works magically. It works beautifully, right? It's somehow the training and everything is so different. And you are able to imagine a future where this actually become good. When we think about the interface, anything becomes possible, right? So we don't have to restrict ourselves to how we will interact with the system, and takes us back to that Dream Machine book about human computer interface and all this. Such awesome.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. But one last question, which is related to the quote again that you had mentioned about culture of urgency. That is, it's possible to have a culture of urgency that doesn't burn out people. Top performing teams have a bias for action and know that burnout kills curiosity. Prioritize urgency, prioritize burnout prevention, and you can do and should do both. Right? Is a fantastic one. I send it to my co-founders as well. And as a founder, I would love to learn the routines and rituals that drives this. How does addressing both these values of operating manifest in the day-to-day of your company? And can you share some practices that aligns, please?
Totally. Yeah. I'm really happy to hear that resonated. Yeah. I think it's a huge one for us. Yeah. A couple of rituals we do around that. I mean, the first thing we do is we didn't invent this. It's called the stress curve. And so every once in a while, with leadership teams or even in town halls, sometimes I'll pull it up and I'll say, where are you on the curve? And the curve is like activity level and stress level. So that's the activity level, stress level. And it kind of goes like this. And the idea is, you might be bored or you might be completely fried and frazzled. And there's this like optimum zone, and you need to name yourself, where are you on that curve? And are you going into the red zone? And if you're going into the red zone, like that matters to Guru, get yourself out of the red zone, take some time off, step away from work. And making that feel okay, and then actually modeling that and actually following through that if someone actually does do that, in fact, it is okay, right? And so I think that's one thing we do. We have a core value called give and receive graciously, which is all around this idea of burnout prevention and recognizing that, it's not just because we're nice people here at Guru. We don't think you are effective as an employee if you are burned out, and so take action accordingly. And so those are sort of the sort of mental wellness side of things, and then on the urgency side of things, because again, as you pointed out, both can be true. I think that is what's often lost in this conversation. You either have to go extreme hardcore or no one's doing any work and everyone's sitting at home, playing with their pets all day, right? Like both can actually be true. And so on the urgency point, I would say the one example I would give you that I would say is the most systemic way we keep the team rooted and biased towards action is a very clear company-wide decision-making framework. And we use DRI, directly responsible individual, which I'm pretty sure Apple coined that phrase. I love it because it's very simple. And it basically says at the end of the day, any decision that's made in the company will be made by one person. That person will be named the DRI in that area. And the message to any employee in the company that I always say is, if it is unclear to you who is the DRI on a given decision, that is a guaranteed slowdown in our ability to operate. If it is unclear how a decision is going to be made, if you're sitting at a table with a bunch of humans and you're talking about something that has to be solved, and it is not clear who the DRI is, you have a real problem, because you're going to walk out of there and be like, well, we talked that through, but then someone has to be like, here's the thing we're going to actually do, right? So DRI is the first thing we do, but then we have this kind of lexicon we share that's called How We Make Decisions at Guru. And we basically just lay out, what does a DRI mean? What are the obligations of a DRI? And there's a couple of ingredients, like a DRI is expected to gather feedback from anybody who has input. We want to hear it. Gathering feedback does not mean using feedback. It is not a consensus culture. So we gather it all. The DRI's job is to say, I gathered all this stuff. Here's what I decided. The purpose is alignment, not consensus. And then the DRI's job is to communicate out, this is the decision that was made. or this is when I'm going to make the decision. This is why I made the decision. And the job of everybody sitting around the DRI is disagree and commit. Cool, got it. Let's go. Right. If I could point at anything that can slow a company down, in my opinion, it is decision making. Micro, little daily decisions that have to be made over and over and over again. That is, I think, our biggest consistent win towards how we can instill a bias towards action, urgency.
Very, very, very true. Right. Well, it's something as simple as let's say a copy on a website on any of the main pages. Is it demand or product marketing? Everybody has an opinion and everybody wants to participate in it. Who's going to make the final call?
Nailed it. That's a very real one, by the way. Very real.
It's the most contentious one in every organization, right? Everybody wants, that's the keyword I want. That's what demand just wants. And then like, oh no, that's where we are actually going with the product. That's what product marketing wants. Awesome. This is a fun conversation. Thank you. It looks like feels like we can actually keep talking for a very long time and I can dig into so many of your learnings. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate your time, Rick. And we may follow up on if you have published any of your literature out to the world, then we will borrow that to also include that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely share some things for sure.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for your time. It was great hours.
Yeah.
Thanks.